Not only is he sublimely skilled, but he took on everyone and he was willing to fight anyone at any time. So for him to call it quits now, there's no shame in that game.
Welcome into Boxing Scene's top stories. You're on ProBox TV. Download the ProBox TV app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. Well, the great George Harrison said it. All things must pass. And right now, it looks like Top Rank is getting ready for Vasiliy Lomachenko, reigning IBF lightweight champion, to retire. Well, what happens next? To help me answer that are two men that aren't what they normally are. They're in Northern Ireland. That's right. We are having a fight Friday, November 1st. McCrory versus Carrillo, hometown. Patrick McCrory, 18-1, coming out the first loss of his career, but so comfortable in Belfast, Ireland, his hometown. Leonard Carrillo, the Colombian fighter, a heavy puncher, 17 wins, 16 by knockout. Of course, my broadcast partners for the event are in Ireland right now. Going to them, the champs, Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri. Gentlemen, first thing I have to ask, if it really is over for Vasiliy Lomachenko, what is your thought on his legacy? Paulie, he was not just great, wasn't just a champion, he was kind of must-see TV. He looked like the next level of boxer. What's his legacy, should he call it a career now?
Yeah, I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a guy who looked to fight the best possible opposition consistently. Didn't care if they were in their prime. Basically the same thing I've been saying about Eastern fighters, the Eastern European mentality, just Eastern in general, because even Inoue likes to do this. I think that he sort of was one of the pioneers of this mentality. I know we've had Eastern Europeans turning pro before Lomachenko, right after the Soviet communism ended, but those guys actually did sort of take more of their time coming up the ranks a little bit. Let's remember Vladimir Klitschko actually losing to Ross Purity on his way up the ladder randomly, so those guys did fight opponents, but Lomachenko became like the sort of new hybrid breed that was so spectacular in the amateurs that he didn't need the freebie 15-20 wins and waste your time to get those. He actually looked to fight the best possible opposition as soon as he could, right away, and then tried to stay consistently fighting the best possible opposition in his weight class. And if his weight class wasn't good enough, he would actually go to weight classes where he was clearly the smaller guy, like he was doing at lightweight, and like where he unified titles at lightweight. I think that is more so what I think needs to be understood and appreciated about Lomachenko. I think the only clear loss he has on his record is the Lopez fight, and even then he ended up having surgery after that fight for an issue on his shoulder. So, and even that one was a close fight. But there's a controversy around the Orlando Salido fight where Salido didn't make weight, and then that fight was also close and controversial. The controversy around the Haney fight where we went over that already. I think retiring is the key here, because you would just end up becoming an opponent for people. And, for a guy who's just tried to fight the best consistently, it's just not worth it for him to now be the opponent. Let the fighters who are in their prime actually chase each other and fight each other at their best, the way Lomachenko laid the foundation to do, Like I said, this is more of an Eastern thing than a Western thing. Western fighters need to start doing that, or they're going to end up killing the sport.
What's your thought, Chris, on the future? Of course, Top Rank has to get ready for Lomachenko to retire and vacate his titles. We're not going to get a Gervonta Davis fight, so there's not going to be one big champ that took over the mantle from Lomachenko. So where do you think they go with the division? What do you think happens?
Well, I mean, Top Rank has a deep stable, and
yes,
especially at 135. There's a ton of guys that can step into that position. You've got Keyshawn Davis, you got Raymond Murataya. They have at least a piece of Denis Berinchyk, who has the title, so you're able to pass him on to one of those other future stars. I second what the champ is saying about Lomachenko. I mean, first ballot Hall of Fame, but also historic. Both for a world title and second pro fight. Second professional fight, he fought Orlando Salido, and controversially lost to a guy who didn't make weight. Then he beats Gary Russell. Like that, Gary's a Hall of Famer. And I remember watching that fight and being like, wow, this guy is the goods. And his fourth fight, he actually fought on my undercard when I fought Manny Pacquiao. I remember him being at, doing all the press tour and everything, and being on the undercard of one of my fights and being like, this guy's the best guy on the card, and Manny Pacquiao included. I was literally thinking that at that time, because he is that good. And yeah, I mean, Lomachenko is the highest praise possible for a fighter, because not only is he sublimely skilled, but he took on everyone and he was willing to fight anyone at any time. So for him to call it quits now, there's no shame in that game, man. The guy has done it all from the beginning to the end. He's quote unquote a young guy for a lot of guys who are retiring. In terms of, you're looking at Bernard Hopkins type guy, whatever. But like his professional high level championship level career was so early and so dominant. You can't question his status and where he belongs. But again, in terms of boxing post Lomachenko, yeah, this sport moves on, man. It is what it is. He's gonna go down as just another great.
But that doesn't move on if Western fighters are not going to fight each other. That's the thing we got to hope for. I think in that weight class, Zepeda is willing to fight everybody. I really do think he is, but I'm not
It's
sure.
funny. You always talk about Eastern fighters. Mexicans are the same way.
Well, Canelo killed that.
Well,
That's the problem.
so the only Mexican fighter who kills that is
But
Canelo.
he's the standard bearer, unfortunately.
Right
So he
now.
makes them
Right
wrestle
now
and
he
look
is,
bad.
but not in the
And the
past.
shame is, even in the past, he fought Josito Lopez.
No. I'm not talking about him in the past. I'm talking about Mexican fighters.
Oh
in
no,
the past.
100%.
Chavez Senior fighting De La
Absolutely.
Hoya was like
Nobody could deny that, of course. But what I'm saying is, that's why the rest of the fighters also should jump on him, and instead of doing what the UFC did with McGregor.
Well, Marquez does.
McGregor made the MMA fighters look bad, and then MMA fighters would just praise him. Marquez does, and he gets criticized by the rest of the Mexican stable of fans and fighters.
another guy who fought everybody.
Another guy who fought everybody, mind you. So, it takes one to see one. It also takes one to see a fraud too. And not to say that Canelo's fraudulent in every way. Don't take me out of context, guys, please. Do me the favor. All right. But what I'm saying is, there are certain kind of guys right now that you see that are clearly just looking to take on the toughest fights possible. And Lomachenko was in that mold.
He's done that. He's done his entire career.
And if you had a guy, the Lomachenko mentality in the lightweight division right now, all these fights will be happening right away. You have Zepeda. Shakur, I think, also does one of the best fights possible there. Everybody really looks to avoid him as well. Gervonta Davis is there as well. And you notice the Western fans are also to blame here, because somehow, some way, the Western fans wind up making the star of the weight class each time the guy who won't fight anybody. So therefore, you jam things up.
So America is obsessed with zeros. We're obsessed with
zeros,
the undefeated guy.
And then it doesn't matter what it is. If you fight the guy down,
Lomachenko hasn't been undefeated since his second pro fight. He lost to Orlando Salido. He's had a 1 on his record his entire career.
Yeah.
And not only to go back to Lomachenko in terms of where he is in the realm of our sport, he was a transitional fighter. People tuned in because he fought in a way that people weren't used to seeing. All those angles, the matrix that he was called, like, cutting angles, sweeping, rolling, the judo, the dancing, the ballet, the things that he did, the wrestling moves he did. All my friends who wrestled love Lomachenko because he did literal wrestling moves in the ring. He would do underhooks and ties and duck unders and things, and be like, oh, this guy, this. He had a crossover appeal that very few fighters in any era actually have. So he's gonna go. I mean, he goes down on so many levels, from fighting everyone to getting a title really early on, to beating great fighters, to consistently fighting great fighters, to also his style. It's almost like a Roy Jones-esque. Like, Roy didn't look like anybody else. Nobody looked like Loma either. He's got his own style, his own way about him, and that transcends everything.
And I love the fact that if he does retire, he's refusing to let himself become the opponent. Like that's after everything that he did. It's disrespectful, I feel, like the way he got done like this. You know what I mean? Both in the Salido fight and even in the Haney fight, So then to go off that and then to be just thrown out down to opponentsville. Now all of a sudden, Gervonta Davis, who wasn't never mentioning his name, all of a sudden wanted to fight him when he's 36, 37 years old, is Lomachenko. I don't think that was fair to him anyway. This is a guy who in his prime wanted to take on the best fighters possible. Let those guys in their prime follow in those footsteps and take on the best fighters possible who are in their prime. This is how you keep the sport infused with fresh action and fresh blood.
He wanted all the smoke. He was incredibly technical, started out at the highest level very early on in his career. And gentlemen, as I said before I let you go, the thing that I remember will be the wow factor. Like you said, Chris, Roy Jones Jr., he was a man. You had to see it in its prime, like Pacquiao, like Roy Jones Jr., like Sergio Martinez. So many of the fighters that were so visually appealing. That's definitely Lomachenko. Gentlemen, get some sleep. I'll be joining you in Ireland this Friday, November 1st, right here. ProBox TV is a showdown from Belfast. Get your ProBox TV app now. Do not miss it. See you in Ireland.
November 1st, ProBox TV makes its European debut in collaboration with Conlan Boxing. This stacked card starts with hometown fighter Padraig the Hammer McCrory returning to the ring to take on the hard-hitting Colombian Leonard Carrillo. And in the co-main, the UK's Robbie Davies Jr. clashes with former two-weight world champ Javier Fortuna of the Dominican Republic. Live from the SSE Arena in Belfast, Northern Ireland.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.